This is going to be really good. I was told that I was going to be coming and talking to a lot of people who were not related or doing childcare. It was going to be purely those other folks we call business people, like you guys aren't. So I'm going to do a lot of adaptation here in terms of my prepared talks to try to bridge both gaps. Thank you for inviting me. I don't talk to the child care folks very often. It's always child welfare side, the protection side, that I really spend a lot of time with, sometimes with the income transfer side of the house. But I like thinking about your stuff. And I like thinking about your stuff because I'm an old lady and I have grandkids and probably soon great-grandkids. And so the future, even though I won't be in it, is important to me for them. And one of the things that is important for me, particularly for the state, is how do we make child care thrive and how do we get businesses connected with it. Now, right now, I think that we're looking out at one of the lowest unemployment rates we've ever had since I've been here, and I've been here in Wisconsin since the middle 60s, and I've never seen this kind of low rate. But what I'm hearing also is a lot of companies saying we can't get workers. And I think that's an interesting thing because 2 years ago they were complaining about some other things. It wasn't I can't get workers, now it's I can't get workers. And all over the state, one of the things that I hear is that people are not taking jobs because they can't find childcare. And I go, ooh. Now, the rural areas of Wisconsin are in worse shape than urban areas in terms of childcare, and there's a lot of reasons why, and we as a department are trying to work on some of those reasons. But what I also think is interesting is that it's not just mothers who can't take jobs because of childcare, it's also fathers. So it's a male-female kind of equal opportunity for not being able to put our kids in care. And one of the things I don't think we think about is that a lot of parents switch shifts in order to take care of kids. And if they're both working on the same shift and you can't get out there, then childcare becomes really important. So I'm going to actually talk about the business side of this more, and I'm going to talk about the child care side of it, but a little bit about the child care side of it. I think we have to focus on two things, the present and the future. The present is how do we get child care programs up where there aren't any? How do we get businesses to look at child care as an investment? I continually worry about trying to get them to go down that route because when I was a kid, businesses didn't provide health insurance. It was an option. Most of them did it as a benefit to get employees to get you to stay. And now we expect it and demand it. So when I ask businesses to do something, I'm really cautious about what we ask them to tap into because humans have this ability, once you give it to me, you're not taking it away. So businesses are going to go down this road very cautiously because they don't necessarily trust that it will be a voluntary thing all along. So we got to figure out how to make that voluntary thing work for them and for us. And if we can't figure out how to do that, to bring them into this, to make them see that this is important to their present survival, then I think we're all in trouble. The future piece of this is it's a little difficult. I don't know humans. I've been around the earth a long time. We are not really future-oriented very well. We are all about now. So how do I tell people to think out 15, 20 years to that little kid in childcare that one day they're going to be an employee or even maybe an employer? So what we do with them early is important to our future, but I think we need to think about that. One of the things we know is that from 0 to 5 is a really important learning time. We used to think about child care providers as babysitters. Now, I don't know. I sit my own kids, so I know how important it was. But it was like a negative. to take care of a small child was a negative. I never understood that. So now one of the things that we are finding out is how important child care providers are. So important that we've changed the name of early childhood to child care to early childhood education. That's an important move. So it begins us to think about, what are we doing? What are you doing with those children? And so getting businesses to invest not only in the now but in the future is something I think is going to be very, very difficult for us to think about, for them to think about, and for us to wander down with them. We have this program that we call the SEED program. I'm trying to remember what the name for it is, but it's about bringing the community and the community businesses and the daycare businesses together around how to, in a community, we put them together and enhance childcare. And it's called Children Empowerment Through Education. That's CETA. We need to do more of that. In some places, the communities are doing that. In some places, the communities aren't doing it. But again, I think what's really important for us is now, how do we support businesses in their workforce needs? It's not just about moms, it's also about dads. How do we do it more in the rural areas, because it's not in the rural areas. I know in Dane County it's kind of hard to think about rural. I live in rural Dane County. There are places that are rural, so it's not all about Madison, Middleton. Okay, there are other places, and when you're outside of the city of Madison, it's hard for you to get childcare, just like it is in other parts of the state. So don't think it just because we live in Madison that we don't have these issues, because we do. And the question for us in our department is, how do we support the development of more early childhood education? How do we make it beneficial? Because those of you who are in this field, it's a business too. So how do we make it profitable for you? I know we don't like to think profit in kids, but nobody's going to stay in this unless they can pay the bills. Nobody's going to put up with this unless they can pay the bills. So we've got to think about how to make it profitable for you. We've got to think about how to make it easier for you to do. We've got to think about how to tie you with the business community so your service is something they want to use, and how do we tie the business community in a way that they don't view that long term they're going to have to do this if it's not profitable for them to do it. And then the long term thing is what I tell people all the time. We beat on the public schools a lot about not doing things, but the starting of a child's learning starts long before they get to kindergarten, and that's on the early childhood education system. And I don't think we thought about that. So if we're beating up on the school system, I think we have to start thinking about, what do we do earlier to get kids prepared for kindergarten? And I think that falls in early childhood education. Now, I know I just dropped a lot of stuff on you right now and in the future, but I hope as you go through the day, you continue to think about, how do we get businesses at the table with us, and then how do we think about where we're going in the future with early childhood education. Thank you.